are you?
Hi, Adalia. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to a A&L interview. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell the viewers what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I am Jamie Schafrath, and today we're going to talk about being a vegetarian slash pescatarian and kind of how that came about.
Can you tell the viewers what it means to be pescatarian? I know vegetarian is pretty obvious, no meat, but what is a pescatarian?
Yeah, so a pescatarian is a person that eats fish.
Okay,
So eats what would be in the category of fish. So I don't eat any meat, but I do eat fish.
awesome. And what made you make this decision? The big question. What's your story behind this journey?
Sure. So I grew up on a family farm, and on the farm, we used to raise our own animals. So we would raise animals for consumption. And so whether that be chickens to really anything that is consumed. So and with that I had raised when I was about 5, I had a bull that was my pet. I saw it as my pet, and my bull, which is a male cow, sometimes they're also called a steer, was like one of my best friends. And so my best friend ended up on my plate for dinner. And I was about 5 years old, and it really traumatized me. So if you could imagine eating Fluffy, or your dog named Skipper or whatever, it was really like me eating my bull named El Toro. And so El Toro ended up on my plate. And so at about the age of 5, I stopped eating all meat. And I really went into like a plant-based diet. And my mom graciously accommodated my new dietary restriction, which came with, I'm not eating anything because I don't trust you guys. So I did eat chicken until I was about 13. And then at about 13, the family farm had chicken barns. And so in each chicken barn, there was about 300,000 chickens. And when I saw the process of how chickens were made, I was about 12 or 13 years old. I stopped eating chicken. So chicken became like a no-go. And then I always like to say that I never had any fish friends. And so when I was about 25 years old, at that point, I had not eaten any meat whatsoever. And then about 25 years old, I was working for the Hyatt. And during the banquet, I had asked for a vegetarian meal. And essentially, like a bowl of fruit came to my table. And on that night, I was actually with Deborah Schafrath. We were at a Hyatt banquet, and I had salmon for the first time cooked right. And so I started eating fish. So then at about 25, I started eating fish again. And that's just been my lifestyle all my life, really.
Wow, that's an
Hmm.
amazing journey.
Yeah, it was not cool. There was no coolness in and around being a vegetarian. There was no trends in and around, eating it because, a plant-based diet is better for you. That was not the case for me at all. It was really that I could not stomach eating my friends.
I love that you
So,
brought that up. I was going to ask a question like, what was it like making this decision before there was anyone who was vegetarian or pescatarian or made these sort of dietary ideas or restrictions for themselves?
I would say that it was very unusual. So to go to a restaurant and order a non-meat meal was very unusual. So I remember at school, for example, I would end up with like a bowl of green beans, or I would end up with, really what became my diet was like breads, vegetables, cheeses, and so I don't know. It's there was no like vegetarian option on meals. I mean, I am 45 years old, and so if you think about 40 years ago being a vegetarian, again, my mom was so gracious to accommodate me. in what she made on a daily basis. It was like, because there were 5 of us, it's kind of like there was my meal and then everyone else's meal. Or it was that, I made my own meal and then everyone else's meal. So it was actually not, it was kind of like there's some scenes in movies where, like on My Big Fat Greek Wedding, there's this scene where like the guy doesn't eat meat and people are like, what do you mean he doesn't eat meat? And you're like, he doesn't eat meat. And so there was a lot of like, what do you mean you don't eat meat? So it was just not a trend at all. It was just my way of life, because genuinely I could not, mentally for me, I could not see myself eating it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question more on the lighter topic, but what's your favorite pescatarian meal?
I mean, so there's, if I were to be, you're like given my last meal, I think like some of my favorites is like popcorn. Popcorn's like one of my absolute favorite snacks. But in terms of a meal, it would be like a baguette with mozzarella cheese, basil, a glass of wine, and some tomato. It's really pretty much that simple. I love making salmon, for example, on the grill is my favorite, and making sure that it's smoked and it has, it's just perfectly done. That's probably one of my favorites that I make. But otherwise, I like, I really am pastas with, basil and fresh vegetables and stuff like that.
I love how you mentioned all those things, because when you think about it, that's something that any one of us might eat on it, like for dinner sometime. So I like
Right.
that. Kind of shows that it's really normal, to have a dietary like restriction or a way of eating like that. It's like
Right.
it makes me think of like a cultural thing. Like if you are Mexican, for example, you might have tortillas with every meal. Or if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
from like India, you might have a curry with rice. And that's just kind of how
Oh,
it works for
so
you.
good.
So I
Yeah.
really like how you brought that up.
Yeah. So good.
Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to add?
Is there anything else I would like to add? What I would all I would say is that I feel as if now today, growing into, going into my 40s, 50s, is that I feel really healthy. I feel like this decision that I made 40 years ago was, again, it wasn't popular. It didn't make me popular, but it really brought me into a very healthy lifestyle. And I'm, you know, whether you're doing it because of health reasons or you're doing it because friends are doing it, I think it's like just feels better in general to make sure that you have a good plant-based diet behind what you're eating. I mean, it also, like, I would say for me, it's like it makes my skin happy. So, and it makes me happy. And it makes the grocery bill less. So yeah, I would just say if you haven't kind of tried it, it is something that I would definitely have you consider.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for talking to me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Adalia, thank you